I just wanted to start with, first of all, how are you? How's the niggle that stopped you from running in Nairobi?
Yeah, it is what it is. You prepare, you make your plan, and you prepare for the season. And unfortunately, I didn't get to. At first, it was Botswana. I had a small family emergency that I had to attend to, and then you kind of refocus and hoping to get to Kenya and then get to Nairobi and get there. I'm like, Nairobi's far from Kingston.
Yeah.
Right? It's super, super far. So get there and not be able to start your season was really disappointing for me. And especially since Nairobi was the beginning of something great for me last year, and not being able to start my season there was really a blow. But you just have to deal what you have to deal with as an athlete, because sometimes we plan and things happen and we just have to go back, listen to our bodies and fix what needs to be fixed. So that's what I'm currently doing. And all is well so far. I've been in training and getting some training done. So yeah, looking forward to opening my season soon.
Do you know when you'll do that yet, or?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think I did ended up taking a whole week and some days before I actually got back into practice, just to make sure that everything was good, because sometimes you'll feel good, and my coach is one of those persons who like to be very cautious. So he's like, take an extra 2 days just to make sense. And I think for me right now, I have always been an athlete that has I've listened to my body over the years, and I think that's why I've been able to have that longevity as well, is because I pay attention to the small things, maybe insignificant to some, but to me it's a big thing. And I want to make sure that yes, I race with pain and I've dealt with injuries often, and still compete, but some things are not worth it at this point in my career.
I
So
was
yeah.
I was going to say, at this point, is there more anxiety when there's a niggle that it could mean more, or is it just easier to deal with?
No, it's the same basically. Nobody wants to deal with injury, whether you're younger or a lot more experienced or mature. I think no, you're a lot more experienced with knowing, okay, then it's not gonna take 5 days, it's gonna maybe take a week, and you know what you can push through and what you need to back off from. So I think for me, no, in terms of, because it's not something that I think will rule me out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's something that happened while I was literally warming up and getting ready to get some training done while in Nairobi. So it's not something that I'm going to be like, I am panicking. Not yet. I don't have the time to panic yet. And I think what's good is the fact that I've already qualified for the World Championship, so I don't have to do my national championship. So that, I guess, takes the anxiety away.
Yeah, 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 definitely helps. And you obviously don't want to take any unnecessary risks when you've got this sort of 14-month period coming up, which could be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to you don't want to miss big patches of your workouts, because you really want to make sure you're hitting your workouts. And when it's time to taper off, then it's time to taper off. You don't really want to be in a crunch position where you're cramming stuff in, because that's not good. That in itself can lead to injuries. So for me, I think I've been experienced enough, and I think I have a lot of faith in my coach and how I feel and what I've been able to accomplish so far in practice. So I'm really just focused on that and trusting God that everything will work according to his plan, and even though I say that, it's not like I'm going out there, I'm like, okay, I'm still making sure that I am being wise in, my recovery, in how I prepare, and being smart with that. I know I'm also can be, I think I'm anxious to start my season, especially after having the season I have. But at the same time, I have to be careful that I'm not rushing or, just to appease everyone. I'm sure I hear and I see the fans and they're like, oh, when are you opening? And I feel and I want to, but I want to do it when it's the right time,
Yeah, and mentioning last season, was that the greatest season of your life, do you think?
I would say so, yes, for sure, because I after 2022, you go back to the 2021, yeah, you go back to the drawing board and you come back. And I've always been that sort of person where, you set your targets, and if you miss them by any chance, it's almost like it gives you so much more desire to go back and work at them. And I think I was able to do that. And I was really just focused on executing according to my coach's plan and what I've been able to do in practice. And I think what was a little bit different is that was I was having a lot more fun with it, not too much pressure, just really enjoying it, because I think I've reached a point where I have nothing to prove to anyone. But at the same time, I think I have a lot to prove for myself, because there's a difference when you believe something and you know what you're capable of, or you know what's within your reach. You kind of want to make sure that you're pushing yourself towards that, and try and accomplish that. And I think that was me last year, where I just totally forgot about anybody else's expectation and kind of just focus on, what I know I can do, have fun. That, yes, you'll have moments where, I could have fixed this and tweaked this and gotten this, but you kind of find solace in the fact that, okay, then that if you're able to do this way, this is the result. So it kind of gives you like a blueprint to know, okay, then I have this, use this, and you'll be able to get to where you need to get to.
Yeah. And is that what keeps you coming back? Because as you say, you don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
The medals are all there. How what is pulling you back?
I've prided myself a bit open. I've never, a lot of times I used to refrain from just stating clearly what I want, and I believe I can run faster. That's really what has kept me here. I believe that with every fiber of my being, and I think last year kind of proved that, because to be able to run a consistent 10-6 last year definitely means that there's a drop to come. When it comes, I don't know. So I'm working towards having that drop hopefully this year, if not this year, then Olympic year. But yeah, so you're excited about it. And I think for me, I'm excited. I'm always excited about something new, something undiscovered, because I think what's happening to me right now is I'm also blowing my own mind, I wake up every morning and I go to practice and I'm like, man, I'm still doing this. I still feel good. I still feel hungry. I'm still working. And it's just amazing to see, just what I've been able to accomplish over the years and the body of work. And, I think at this stage, it's really also about impact, showing other female athletes, or athletes overall, what you can do if you really have that conviction, and the things that we tell ourselves, if we continue to work at that, then anything is possible. Greatness is possible from that. So for me, it's getting up every morning and still feeling rejuvenated, still feeling like there's something I'm chasing, that it's right there. I'm almost touching it, and, just need a little bit more push. So I'm hoping that I continue not just to inspire, other athletes, but myself, because I still, my coach tells me every day, you're 36, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. Gone are the days at 36, most, if not majority of athletes would have been retired, at home doing something else. But ageism is something that we should talk about, because I hate the fact that a basketball player or a football player can play sport at 40, a NASCAR driver or Formula One is 42 and 50, and he gets to continue, but why can't I continue?
Yeah.
It's a job, it's my job. And as long as I'm showing up healthy, then I'm going to show up and I'm going to rewrite the books, and I'm excited about that.
How has your sort of relationship or your approach to training changed over the years? Is it something you still have have that big appetite for, because you have to put yourself through so much to do what you do?
Surprisingly, yeah. I believe anything that I've achieved over the years, it took a lot of work to get there. A lot of the body of work was there. And again, it's as long as I can tolerate it, then I'm going to do it. I'm experienced enough to know what I can manage and not manage. So if any day I'm at practice and I feel like, okay, I need to back off a bit, I do. I'll like, okay, I'll pick this up in the morning. In the morning. But then there are days when, I'm struggling in the sense that I'm tired and I'm pushing. But that's what training is. Training is breaking down the body every day, and you learn to know what's the good fight and what's the bad fight. Like, okay, you need to let this one go, and it's not working, or you're too tired. Pay attention to the body. But I think what has been equally important for me is my recovery. So at this stage, I do pay attention to my recovery. What's unnecessary, I don't get involved in, because I realize at this point, yes, I have a lot more work in my legs, a lot more runs. I have to be mindful of what I'm doing day to day, how I'm spending my day. Yesterday, I went to a football match for my son. He's 5, and I wanted to jump on the field and scream and say, and move and go about. But I know, okay, then I need to go to practice. So let me sit and cheer from the sideline. And I sent Daddy out there. I'm like, go cheer. I was delegating yesterday. So you kind of know what you can and cannot do. And you're aware of that. But I think my coach is experienced enough to know what I can manage. And I think he listens. And I also communicate, whenever I'm feeling fatigue, because a lot of training is also feedback. It's feedback from the athlete to the coach, okay, then that program that you wrote yesterday, it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool. It's not cool. It's not happening.
I found it interesting. I read the other day a comment from you about how you felt you were still learning. And I found that interesting, given your breadth of experience. What kind of thing are you learning, or what is there still to learn, do you think?
I think there's still a lot to learn, because I think I don't have the best technique. And in terms of my technique, I really have to work hard to cement it. It's something that I have to go to the line and actively process in my head to say, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, Shelly. This is what we're doing. This is what we need to get going today. So I'm still learning to do that. And I think one of the things is learning to do it being relaxed as well, and making sure that it's automatic. It's something that I can switch on and switch off if I need to. And a lot of that takes concentration and replicating it daily in practice. So I don't have the room to be, to have mistakes, like 1 and 2, sure, but it must be consistent, and I think for me, the more times I'm able to do it, is the easier it will become. And that's what training is happening in training. So for me, I'm still learning technically, how to run the 100. I'm still learning, and it's crazy that I go to practice, and it's almost like every September, October, when I go back to practice, it's almost I go with a clean slate. There's nothing written on the board. I draw from experiences, sure, from your memory box, and you use it to your advantage. But at the same time, when I go there, I'm going there brand new, as if I've never learned anything before, because I'm eager to say, okay, if I tried it this way, maybe I can try it that way. with a little bit of the other way and put them together, and maybe I'll be able to get what I need to get. So it's I think what's important is just trusting the code. And I think that's what makes a difference for me, is trusting that my coach knows what he's doing and I believe in him. And we're just making sure that we do all the right things to make sure that we arrive at the right place.
Yeah. Well, what does it feel like when you're racing well, when things fall into place?
I think when I'm racing well, you kind of have a sense that you're going, not necessarily, it's almost like you're in slow motion. It's almost that feel of effortlessness, like you're not trying hard. That's how it really feels. You know, it's almost that transition, it flows. And that's what you want. You want to be in that state as an athlete where everything flows. There's no pause, because pausing means you're thinking, you know, and I don't want to be thinking in the race. I want to flow. So that's important. And you learn after a while when you're having a good run and when you're not having a not so good run. But the beauty about it is when you're not having a not so good run, you're able to say, okay, then this is not a good run. And you try, depending on how far you are in the race, if you're all the way in front or something, you try to tweak something and you go again. So you're aware after a while what you need to do and how you feel in a given race. Like, this is how I feel when I ran my 10-6. This is how I need to feel all the time.
Yeah. How soon do you know after the gun whether it's a good one or a bad one?
You kind of know. Usually if I get a good start, then I'll feel it. But I think for me, coming out of my dry phase and going into and accelerating is really when I know if I'm having a good one, because you kind of feel centered. You don't feel off balance. I mean, off balance when you're driving sometimes, sure, if you're not swinging your arms, but you literally feel like your posture is just centered. You're not drifting to the left. You're not drifting to the right. You're not feeling tight and restrictive. You know, you're flowing with the movement. And I think that's when you know, okay, then I'm relaxed and I'm comfortable. And, you know, you just can hit it from there.
Is the 10-6 the most complete performance or the closest you've got to doing things exactly as you'd wanted?
I would say two of my 10-6 runs or three were off that state where I was close. I think that 10-6-0 I did in Lausanne, and then there's a run I did in Paris was also like that, and I think the run that I did in Kingston.
Yeah. And it's, obviously last year, the word that sort of springs to mind, other than fast, is consistent. Consistency is not a sort of a buzzword, a sexy word, I guess you would say, but it's the sort of it's the old truism, I guess, that the consistency is what will bring you the results.
Yeah, it's being consistent. When I said earlier, it's not just being consistent on race day, it's being consistent in practice, because all of those runs that I've done them in practice. I've had 60 meters in practice. I've had 100-meter in practice. And it's all about, a lot of times I focus less on the time and more on how I feel and the technique and how I'm executing the runs, as opposed to the fast time, because, okay, I know I'm fast. You know, you kind of know that, but what am I doing when I'm doing what I'm doing? How do you feel doing it? And I think that's the difference in like every single run that I've done it in practice. So it's about being consistent there first. And then once you get to the line, then you execute. The more you execute the phases, the more you execute the plan, the more consistent you become.
Yeah. And so connected to the track, but slightly away from it, you're obviously doing a lot of mentoring with the younger athletes. As someone with so much experience, how do you sort of see yourself best placed to help them, and what's usually the first or the common bit of advice you think you can give them that would help?
I think with my Pocket Rocket Foundation, that's really where everything takes off for me, because I'm in this unique position where I'm able to see not just track athletes, but, footballers, netballers, swimmers. And I think for me, being able to provide them with a blueprint, because at the end of the day, it's not always gonna be my way that will get you your result. But there are things from my journey that you can take that are, for every athlete, it's unique. When we talk about preparedness, or we talk about mental, being in that mindset, or being committed to the task and following through, it's for everyone. And I think for me, mentorship is important, because I think for a lot of person, they just want somebody who shares a similar outlook, our vision of this is where we want to go as athletes. We prepare, or we train hard so that we can win. That's just the truth. Nobody prepares to come second or to come third. We prepare to win. So in the quest of winning, there are a series of things that we do to get to that point. And that's one of it that helps us is mentorship, being able to be with somebody who have experienced it and can probably give them a guide to say, okay, here's what you can do. Here's what I found that helps me to relax. Try visualization, try, sowing good seeds, being around persons that are positive, that helps you see at the end, and being honest and open as an athlete. Because I think for me, that's also one thing. It's being honest enough that you get through a race and you probably won the race, but you can say, without, you can say that was shit.
You're allowed to say that.
I think for a lot of persons, they're not honest with themselves, where you can sit down as an athlete and like, yeah, I won, but I don't think I did anything. It didn't do well. I need to go back. I need to try it again, because that's the thing with complacency. I think for a lot of athletes, they go into a race and they won the race, and they probably did the worst thing possibly in the race, and they still won, and they walk away thinking like, yes, that's it. When they can look, yeah, you're glad you won, but you still didn't do what you needed to do, because chances are you'll probably go in a next race that's has a lot more intensity, and you need to do the right things, because you won't have any room to make the kind of error that you made and win. So I think that's why mentorship is so important, because you can give that guideline. You can say to the next athlete, this is what you're chasing. You have to be consistent. You have to know what you want. You have to go after it. And when you fall down, you have to get back up again, and you have to try again and try it another way. You have to risk everything. And every morning when I get up to go to practice, I'm risking sleep, I'm risking injuries, I'm risking a lot of things, but I don't think about it in that perspective. I think about what I'm going to gain from all of that. That's what I think about. And it's less about the risk and more about the gain, what I'm gaining from this. So being able to have my foundation and have that impact with the student athletes has been wonderful, because growing up, I never had a lot of it. And who knows if I had more of that. A lot of persons just need to be able to have that person who understands where they're coming from and where they need to be, and help them to get to that place a lot more efficiently, than probably you did.
Yeah. And who were the people who inspired you coming through, and who inspires you now, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I think growing up, it was my mom. I told persons like, I never really watched track growing up. I saw it. I remember vividly watching the 2004 Olympic Games at home. And I think we won a gold medal at that championship. And I remember being so excited, but I've never really remember following track per se.
Yeah.
But my mom knew she got pregnant when she was younger and didn't get to fulfill that. So you sort of have that thing where you see her day in, day out, get up and she goes to work. She's the first person I know that was committed and dedicated and was relentless in her pursuit of making sure that she provided for us. So those are the things I took on. I'm like, okay then, and she wanted good for me. So it was always a case like, make sure you go to practice, and and I never wanted to go to practice. I'm not ashamed to say I didn't want to do track at first. I was forced. I was forced because my mom thought, being from a poor community, she thought this was going to be my way out. Being poor, she thought this was going to be my way out. And that was instilled from early. But I never got it until I later on, like way down, is when I actually accepted that, okay, this could possibly be true. But before, it wasn't the case. So for me, she really kind of inspired me to push. Even when I didn't want to push, she was always just there and she showed up for everything. She was on all my mates at my sports day, even when she's wearing colored wigs and running barefoot and stuff. She was always there. And I think Jean Coke, who is one of the person that kind of really inspired the Pocket Rocket Foundation, her assistant, my church was a huge part of my success because, there's never a time that I've never felt supported. And then I had my grandmother. I tell people all the time that the day I decided to go to University of Technology and have Stephen Francis coach me, it was because of my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was literally because of my grandmother. And, she was like, yeah, I think you should go. And I remember her praying for me and like, she was like, pack your bags and go. And I was out the next day. I didn't even spend the next day. It was literally the next day and I was gone. So she was really the person that pushed me to go to UTech at that time to train with Stephen. So she's still here now. I mean, and it's awesome to be able to see, and she's so excited right now. So like I'm a Grace Kennedy ambassador now, so a digital ambassador here. So my grandmother takes the tin of sausage that I'm on, that's my face, and she takes them off and she puts them in her them off the tin and she puts them on our wall, and she takes a card, the phone card with my picture on it, and she puts them up because she's so excited and she's so proud, and it makes me feel good to see that, because she was really being the person that has kept me grounded when I was younger, like 17, 18, because at that time I thought I was grown and I wanted to go about my business, and she was like, not so fast. So she has kind of been that person. So I would say her, being a part of the Woolmus Girls School was also a huge part of, my success. There are so many persons who literally just was like, you have a gift. There's something about you that we're going to nurture and want to get to that place. So I had a lot of persons who continue. And I think right now, in terms of looking up to anyone, I would really say right now, my son keeps me motivated. I really think my son keeps me motivated. He's 5 years old now. I see a lot of me in him where he's so competitive and he looks up to me. Like when I'm coming home from practice or I'm leaving and I'm like, bye, he goes, bye, Pocket Rocket. Or he asks, oh, you're going to training now, mommy? And I'm like, yes, I'm going to practice. So I definitely think he motivates me to just continue to show him that eventually when he gets a little older and he'll be able to read about me or know about me, I hope he'll be inspired to not give up and to really go after his dreams and to see that he made me a lot better. And, a lot of persons may think when it comes to sprinting or an athlete, having a kid, right before you're 30 to come back to compete is a mistake. And I'm like, look what you did. You're the reason for this. So I'm hoping that he'll be inspired. But yeah, I'm inspired daily, by different things that he's able to accomplish and how he's growing so far.
Plus, you're obviously inspired to, take part in the sports day as well.
Yes, listen, I was so excited because the year before, well, not the year before, that's COVID, his very, very, very first sports day was a part of a little preschool, like he was like a nursery that he was attending. And I couldn't be there because I had a meet. And it hurt me because I was like, oh my God. And my friends were like, he was literally, he wasn't even 2, he was like 18 or 19 months. And it hurt me not to be there, you know. And he ran a race, but they didn't really run. And my friends were like, if you were there, he would have ran. And I'm like, I know. So I was excited about the sports day because this was our first official sports day. And then we got to our shirts with his name printed on it. And we were ready to take on a day. I had no plans of running. I was literally there as a cheerleader, right? And I was leaving it up to the boys to handle. I was like, my husband says he runs every morning. So I'm like, there's no way these daddies are gonna beat my husband. No way. Because he works out. So I was leaving it up to them. And then I went there and I was like, no, this is not happening. My son fell. He got a bronze medal, and my husband didn't make the podium. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I was like, good thing I wore my training shoes, I wore my leggings, and I warmed up. And I'm like, there's no way we are going home and not have a gold medal. So of course I showed up, and I could not believe when I got to the line to run, we had tents. So there are different houses. There are 3 houses. Like, my son is in blue, and there's red, and there's yellow. And everybody's under their tent. And I remember standing on the line, and every single person came out. They were so excited to see me run. I'm like, so, just to be able to really be in that moment, and I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day, because when you look at it, they've cheered for me, they've seen me on the television competing, and they're cheering, and now I get to run at their sports day, and all the kids were so excited. Yeah. And I see them all the time, and they're like, Auntie Shelly, can we get a picture, please? Can we get a picture? So it literally became my own little diamond league.
But it's important as well, because I think it highlighted just how fast, or how much faster you are than someone, it was a reminder of how good, or how good the elite athletes are.
Yeah, and my friends were like, you didn't have to run so fast. I said, girl, I wasn't running fast. I was striding. I wasn't running, I was striding out, right? But I'm a mom. They said it was parent race. I'm a parent. I show up. I happen to be an Olympian, but I'm a parent.
Yep.
So I showed up, and I would feel terrible if I jogged. I would feel terrible, because that's just not who I am. If I'm going to show up, I'm going to give 100% all the time. So I give 100%.
And just finally, I just wanted to ask, with you coming towards the latter part of your career, what you're thinking about next, and whether being part of the governance of the sport was interested you at all, and hypothetically, if I was to put you in charge just now, what would be the first thing you would change?
Wow. That's a lot. In terms of my outlook, I said, really, right now it's about impact. I think I want my legacy to be impact, how I impacted the sport, how I helped change the narrative of, what elite female sprinters are, who we are, what motherhood is, how does that define us, and knowing that it's a part of who we are eventually, because some may decide to take that journey and some may not, but they should have the option of taking that journey if they want, without repercussions, without feeling, neglected. And I think that's really, really important for me. So it's about the impact. It's what I want to do with my foundation, how I want to help student athletes really navigate the next chapter, showing them what's possible with the foundation. And I think also I really want to run fast these next 2 years. I really want to have some fun, really just push the barrier of what's possible, showing women athletes that, you can carve out for yourself your own niche and make it your way. You know, it may seem like it's not possible, but you have time, because I'm in my 30s and maybe, you know, you'll get there eventually. This is not the time you give up. Maybe this is the time you feel alive. And I think for me, in terms of governance, for sure, anything that relates to my sport, because I think it goes back to the mentorship question, where I think as athletes, we should always be concerned with how our sport or where our sport is going, because it affects everyone. It affects me, and it's going to affect the next generation to come. And you want to make sure that you are actively participating in the conversation. You are adding to the narrative of how you want to shape this for the future. And it's important. So of course, if that's the direction that I choose to go, I would want to go in that direction for sure. To sit on a board, to add my, you know, voice to the platform, to the collective, to really show that, okay, we're a force together, you know, we can really cause change. And what would I do? I think if I was in that position, I think for me, I really want to, as a sporting body, it's important when we support individuals, you know, because we're all unique. We bring difference, we're different, we bring difference to the table. But I think we hear this conversation about growing the sport all the time, and athletes are responsible for growing the sport and all that. But I think when we are actively growing the sport, I think we also need support. And I think athletes need support, because the truth be told, there's only a certain percentage of athletes that are really gaining or getting things from the sport. A lot of them are still struggling. So we have to find a way that we can bridge the gap, where we're asking athletes to grow the sport. We're asking them to do more for the sport. But how are we supporting their needs? How are we helping them? Because not every country will have a funding for athletes. Not every country puts together packages that assist athletes in their quest for Olympic goal or world championship goal. It's not like that. So you have to make sure that you're implementing strategies or funding, or you're having advocacy to make sure that athletes are taken care of. It shouldn't be a case where, for a lot of athletes, you know, when they walk away from the sport, a lot of them are struggling. A lot of them are trying to find their way out, because they have families, they have agents, they have coach, there's nutrition, there's boarding, there's so many things that, you know, encompasses being an athlete. So that's one thing I would definitely want to talk about more. It's support. Yes, we help you to grow the sport, but you also have to help us grow into, you know, what we want to accomplish as athletes.